Hey, what's up, everybody? Episode 2 of the Myles B Show coming at you. Today, we are going to do a preview of today's Colts Commanders game, 4:25. I believe it's on Fox for those of you watching the game. I'm sure if you're not here locally, you can catch the game on the NFL package or whatever that is. Some awesome news to start out the show. The website is up, www.themylesbshow.com. Please check it out. You can get to our YouTube, our Apple Podcast from there. You can actually play the audio versions of the podcast straight from the page, so please give that a check. And again, if you're watching, you can listen to us on Apple Podcasts. If you're listening, you can watch us on YouTube. Both of those, you're going to search The Myles B Show, as you'll see with the icons right up here throughout the show that is described. So make sure you check us out on one of those platforms or on the social media. Give us a follow, give us a subscribe. We've got the whole kit and caboodle. All right, so let's talk about the Colts this weekend. First and foremost, the biggest news of the week came on Monday when Frank Reich announced less than 24 hours after he said that Matt Ryan was our quarterback, that Mr. Sam Ehlinger would be starting for the Colts, not just this week, but for the remainder of the season is the plan. This is huge to me. It's long overdue. The first thing that it's proof of is maybe finally this organization has stopped putting Band-Aids on the quarterback issue we've had since Andrew Luck retired several years ago now, and we're still paying for it. It's been Band-Aid after Band-Aid. I know it wasn't the Ballard way to put stock in a quarterback, but that's what you have to do in this league. You look at all of the teams that have been successful. So let's talk about Sam. I think he's a really talented kid. First of all, I think this whole situation is a win-win for Colts and Colts fans. Either A, Sam comes out and proves that he's the guy. It's not going to happen in 1 week, but over the course of the next few. Or he bombs and we bomb and we end up with a really good draft pick in a draft that's rich with quarterbacks. So win-win for Colts fans there. Really absolute excitement over this guy. The pop that we're getting in the media, in Colts forums, everywhere. Everybody's really excited for this kid. I mean, there are some people out there that are upset that we did Matt Ryan the way we did, and even Frank admitted that we did him wrong. We promised him a line that would protect him and receivers that would catch the ball, and neither of those things happened. But I do think it's a huge aspect that line was more than likely built for a more mobile quarterback. You look at the years where Quentin Nelson had the biggest success was with, mobile quarterbacks. They built this team, and that's the way every team should be built right now, is for mobile quarterbacks. So, seeing Sam move around in the pocket, now I am worried about holding calls, right? But I think that this line is going to perform way better with a quarterback that has escapability and can shift the pocket and get outside of the pocket and create things with his feet. Ehlinger had a great career at Texas, had 11,436 passing yards, 94 touchdowns to 27 interceptions, and a 62.5% completion percentage. That's pretty outstanding for that high of a performing team, D1. I'm still not sure why he was drafted as late as the 6th. I don't think he was a first or second rounder by any means, but a 4th maybe. But hey, we will take him in the 6th, and we'll see what happens for the rest of the season. But the biggest stat that really excites me about him is in his time at Texas, he had 1,903 rushing yards and 33 rushing touchdowns. That's 8 rushing touchdowns a season, 3.4 yard per carry average. That's a little misleading because obviously I'm sure there were several plays that got stuffed as far as run pass option or things like that in his college time. Overall he had a phenomenal college career. It's a matter of whether that translates, to the pros or not. I think as far as what Sam's going to do this weekend, I think we're going to see some success. First of all, Lucas Oil is going to be rocking. There's no doubt about it. Lucas Oil is going to be as loud as it's been. I think there's a pop and an excitement. Hopefully that translates to seeing energy on the field on all three phases, because that's not something that we've seen, especially not for an entire football game this year. So hopefully Sam energizes the team. But the keys here are he can't make mistakes early. Mistake early is going to ruin his confidence. We need to make sure his confidence is up. Run the ball, run with Taylor. I think you're going to see a lot of screens and short routes, a lot of run pass option, which is what I'm really excited about. Hopefully Frank opens up the playbook to that RPO, because that's where Sam is going to excel. And I believe it's going to open up for Jonathan Taylor too, the threat of the quarterback running or the pass beyond just normal play action fake. So hopefully we'll see some confidence through the RPO. Taylor will get some yards on the ground. He'll complete, several of his first few passes, maybe even put it in the end zone, or at least get points in his first couple of drives, I think would be huge for the confidence. And the offensive line has to block. It has to do that. We can't get holding calls when he escapes outside of the pocket. We cannot afford silly mistakes, especially if we end up making plays down the field or Sam does something with his legs that can't come back on a holding call. So this line really needs to piece together and prove and put their money where their mouth is, considering it is the highest paid line in the league. What do I think Sam's going to do? I actually think this first game, especially since it's the Commanders, he's going to come out and look pretty good. I'm going to say he's going to end up with 75 yards in the air, probably 40 or 50 yards on the ground, 2 total touchdowns and an interception. To me, that's a great debut for what is basically a rookie quarterback. The key here to Sunday that I find very interesting is, what does Sunday's impact have on the Colts as a team, players, and most specifically Frank Reich and Chris Ballard. I believe that if it's a close game, not necessarily a win, but a close game where the team looks competitive in some phases and maybe the only issue is Sam, that we probably won't see any major moves come Monday or Tuesday. But if this is another complete shit show, and we see a lack of energy and turnovers outside of Sam, because those are acceptable, poor play calling, missed opportunities, going for it when you shouldn't, not going for it when you should. If this team comes out flat and just lays a complete turd today, then I think that we may see potentially a hot seat get even hotter for Frank and maybe even Chris. I think this determines even more than that. I think that one of the things it determines too is how active the Colts are at the trade deadline. Again, I think if we win or we play well and just come up short, or there's a lot of building blocks, maybe they keep it together. The team is 3-1 and firmly in the wild card race, and actually still competitive for the division of the AFC South with 10 games to go. So if they really do shit the bed and they have an absolutely horrible game, not only do I think that we could see Jim Irsay fire a coach for the first time in the middle of a season ever, but I think that we could see, Chris Ballard go as well.
Bye, Felicia.
And, to be honest with you, I've supported Chris up until recently this year. Now the wide receivers are coming back through, and they're starting to play well. So maybe I can forgive him a little bit, but not addressing the left tackle was a huge mistake. The offensive line that he's built and dumped so much money into the trenches that he's all about can't protect a shitty old quarterback or a shitty young mobile quarterback like Carson Wentz last year. This was your pride and joy. So I really do believe Chris Ballard's job is on the line. Now, I don't think Jim Irsay would fire Chris until the end of the season. And the reason for that is I do think he'll let him write it out. But should this be a terrible game on Sunday, I think what we're going to start seeing is a shift towards the future. And what I mean is the Colts are going to be sellers on the trade block. And I think the end goal will be to stock as many draft picks as humanly possible, regardless of position, so that you can parlay those together and end up with a much higher first round pick, especially if you have a bad record, you already have a high one and you want to move up, or maybe you want to keep that one and offer several picks to move into the first couple of spots. I think the possibilities are endless, and there are some players definitely worth selling right now, as much as I don't want to do that. Here's the list. For those of you listening, we're going to go through each one of these. But first and foremost on my list is Yannick Ngakoue. I was so excited when Yannick came to the Colts in the offseason. I thought it was a phenomenal trade. He was touted as the second coming of Dwight Freeney. Everybody thought, oh, this is what the line needs. And it's not that he's been bad, but he's just been. You don't hear his name called. I know he has a couple of sacks on the season, but he's not setting the edge the way that it was made out that he was going to do. He's definitely not getting the quarterback pressures, and maybe it's just a matter of him getting into the fold and into the scheme, because he has improved over the last couple of weeks. But I think he's probably the most expendable name. We're not going to get huge high draft picks for him, but maybe a third, maybe a fourth, maybe like a fourth and a fifth, something along those lines. Again, with the end goal of stockpiling draft capital to be able to trade up in the draft, which I know is not Chris Ballard's usual, his usual actions, but I do believe Jim Irsay is calling shots and pulling strings. Number 2 on the list, and this one hurts my heart a lot. That's going to be Stephon Gilmore.
No, God!
Hey.
No, God, please, no! 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 No!
I think, I don't want to see him go. He has been a huge part of what success that we have had on defense. He's had huge stops in our wins against Kansas City, the game ender against Denver. He's come up big, but he is proving that he's still a top DB in this league, which means there are people that are going to want him, especially people that have injuries, that are contenders. And they might be willing to part with higher draft picks. Now, I'm not saying he's going to get a first round. There's no way a 30-plus-year-old quarterback is ever going to get a first-round pick, unless maybe it's Richard Sherman. I back in the day, I don't know. But I would expect to see, maybe a second, maybe a third and a fourth, third and a fifth, something like that. Again, building capital. Number 3 on the list, Shaq Leonard. I know he's coming back today. More on that here in a little bit. But again, huge name. He's a phenomenal player if he's healthy and he gets his head in the game. Could command pretty decent draft capital again, a second round pick, maybe a third and a fourth, or third and a fifth. There might even be a team that's extremely desperate for a leader that would come in and give like maybe a late first, but I wouldn't count on, that high of a value. But here's the thing with Shaq, man. He's played for 2 quarters in 7 weeks, and I'm not here to hate on anybody who's been injured, but my biggest concern with him is the mental health concern. And I'm not coming down on him for that because we all struggle with our mental health issues. But I think what I'm concerned about is his love for the game and his desire to be on the field. If it was in question based on his comments in the offseason about last year as it was, it can't help that he comes off of the shelf off the back injury and within 2 quarters gets a teammate's helmet to the face that crushes his mask into his face and breaks his nose. Absolutely insane. But I think what worries me and makes me think that he's high on the Colts sell list if Sunday does go terribly wrong is the amount of capital, again, that he could get. Again, you could be seeing a high second, low first. A late first, early second for him, or it could be a combo of picks like a second and a fourth, a second and a fifth. But he will demand draft capital because he is a top player in this league when healthy. And I don't think that unless he gets hurt badly on Sunday, that anybody's going to judge him based on that performance and more of the collective book of the performance of his career thus far. And last year he was setting records, and he was only about 70%. So that's the other end of that. He could come out and set the world on fire today. We don't know, but it's unlikely. He's got rust that he's going to need to knock off. That was evident in the first 2 quarters, and he never even got into his flow. So it'd be interesting to watch him, him either overperforming or underperforming today, parlayed with what the Colts do, whether they come out and at least look competitive or whether they just shit the bed, could really determine if Shaq's on that list or not. Number 4 is Quentin Nelson. I was very vocal in the offseason that I did not want to see us sign a left guard to a $20 million extension. And I love Q. I love his attitude. But he is getting used and abused this season so far. And he did last year, too. He had some rough games last year, but it seems like he is getting flattened on the line. Now, he's had some pretty tough competition, but that's still no excuse. He's supposed to be the left guard in the league, and we're paying him over $20 million a year to be here. I think that alone makes him extremely expendable because that's cap room for next year if we can offload his salary. I don't believe that he's producing at $20 million. Again, having a mobile quarterback back there, which is what he's best at blocking for, is great. But we can't also ignore the fact that this team hasn't run blocked this whole season. Whether it was JT or Jackson or Naheem Hines, there's been absolutely no blocking whatsoever. So while I hope that having a mobile quarterback fixes the issues with the line, or at least starts repairing them, I don't know if it will, because they haven't run blocked very well either this season. So, we'll have to see. We'll have to see what they're doing. As far as the schemes go, maybe the RPO presents better run block options for these guys. I don't really know. But I do think Quentin Nelson is going to be on the block, especially if the line plays terribly on Sunday again, or today again. 5th on the list, Ryan Kelly. Again, kind of the same concept as the last 3 guys. But here's the thing. There's a good backup plan in place for Ryan Kelly if we do trade him. Danny Pinter has proven more than reliable, and he's not making $15 million a year. Ryan Kelly had a lot of communication errors with Matt Ryan through the first few weeks of the season, some fumbled snaps, which may or may not have been his fault, but at the end of the day, he's involved in that. And you can't have that from a $15 million a year center. You just can't, especially when you got a guy like Pinter who could slide in the role and at least be 80% or better than what Ryan Kelly can do. And the draft capital you get from a young franchise-type center like Ryan Kelly, again, early second, late first, or some combo picks again. But you start thinking about this, and you see these 5 guys, and you could end up with multiple picks, multiple seconds, multiple thirds, fourths, fifths, maybe even a first or 2. And think about the capital that you would have over the next 2 years, essentially, to really draft key members of the core. You go and get your franchise quarterback if it's not Sam. You go and get another blockbuster wide receiver. You go and get a defensive lineman who is going to destroy. You go and get a fucking left tackle. Jesus Christ. Something. But, man, again, the amount of draft capital, especially if we finish in the top 5 in the draft, or bottom 5 in the league this year, it's going to be worth it. Last but not least on the list, I think, is everybody's kind of duh moment. Matt Ryan. Obviously, the main goal there is offloading his salary. The Colts are responsible for, 25 plus million, I believe, over the next 2 years, even if he doesn't play another down. Which he's not going to. He's done here. He's probably done in the NFL. I love him. I hate to see it. He's such a good guy. He's been such an outstanding human, both on and off the field, in his time in Atlanta. But notably, I didn't like the move. I ended up drinking the Kool-Aid late and getting excited about it because of his leadership skills. But from the get-go, it's been a couple years since Matt Ryan has even looked like Matt Ryan. That being said, you never know when somebody's first 2 or 3 quarterbacks on the depth chart end up injured and they need a guy. The biggest problem in moving him is the deadline being Tuesday, and that I'm not sure there's anybody out there that would trade for a 37, 38-year-old quarterback with a separated shoulder. I wouldn't. I'd rather put it in some young gunslinger's hand who nobody in the NFL knows his name and see if we can find something. But, maybe there's a competitor out there with a line that can support a statuesque quarterback like Matt Ryan. He did have moments of brilliance, especially when he got protection in time. But, man, 9 interceptions and 3 fumbles lost in 7 games. That's putrid, man. And I think that the Colts made the right decision here in going to Sam. I know there's a lot of people upset that we abandoned Matt, but Matt's not going to be successful here. All he's going to end up is hurt, just like every other quarterback that's been here since the sheriff left town. So ultimately, if you could get a 7th round pick for Matt, hell, if you could just trade him for a bag of Cheetos, as long as we don't have to maintain his salary for the next 2 years, that's a win. I don't think it's a likely win, but man, it'd be great to see that happen. So last but not least, let's talk about the game. I mean, we've had some conversations about it. We've talked about Sam, we've talked about Darius, but what we really aren't celebrating yet is that Shaq is back, baby. And I hope he actually is back. That's the thing that we don't know, is what kind of physical condition he's in. He's going to be rusty. What kind of mental condition he's in. Like I said, it's hard enough to come back from an injury, especially a back injury, and then get bashed in the face and break your fucking nose the next game. I can't imagine mentally what he's going through and how nervous he is. But if he can shed those nerves, get a tackle or two in, really feel that hit and that pressure, and a couple defensive series where he can get energized and charged up and be the maniac, I'm excited to see him. That makes me excited for both sides of the ball. We're going to be watching Sam Ehlinger and we're going to be watching Darius Leonard. But at the end of the day, I don't think we could get too excited about Sam Ehlinger playing Tyler Heinicke, especially when we looked at this at the beginning of the season. We saw Carson Wentz against Matt Ryan and the justification match, if you will. And man, would I have not wanted to be a fly on the window in Jim Irsay's office if they had lost to Carson Wentz. I feel like
nobody makes me bleed my own blood. Nobody.
I don't think he'd have been happy. So, but at the end of the day, the defense really should step up. I don't see this being a high-scoring game. As far as the line goes, we are looking at the Colts giving 3. I'm going to take that all day long. I think the Colts will win this game. The over-under is 39.5. I also say take that. Take it and run. There's no way these teams are going to be putting up 40 points because both have standardly solid defenses. The Colts defense is improving every week, and both are starting quarterbacks that are not experienced. And, well, Heineke's not really that good. Consider he was the backup to Carson Wentz, and we know how that's gone. But my advice, if you're a betting type of person, take the Colts -3 and take the under at 39.5. I think those are pretty locked up, solid bets on this game. As far as my prediction goes, I think we'll see, like I said, Sam Ehlinger have a lot of emotion and a lot of energy and come out swinging. Hopefully that doesn't translate into tons of turnovers. But I still think it's going to be a relatively low-scoring game. I'm going to say we're going to see the Colts win this one 17-13. So again, they're going to cover that 3 points or 3.5 if it adjusts to that at some point during the day before the game starts. But we're going to be looking at 4-3-1, which really, really puts me in an awkward position as far as my stance on the trade deadline. And that if we're 4-3-1, and we look bad doing it like we did against Denver, I know a win's a win, but do you go ahead and proceed with the fire sale at that point? Do you still stock up for the future? I don't really know. I think it's going to depend on Jim's mood coming out of the games tonight. I think that it's going to depend on who plays well and who earns value. And if any of those guys on that list or Sam Ehlinger don't play well, anything could happen. It's really anybody's guess at this point. All right. Well, that's going to bring episode 2 to a close. Real excited to watch this game with you guys. Follow me on Twitter or join the Facebook. I'm usually pretty active on social media. Today will probably be no different. So I'd love to hear your comments during the game and your feedback. Love for you to drop a comment here. Make sure, again, you check us out on social media, The Myles B Show on Twitter, on Facebook. You can search The Myles B Show on YouTube to watch the video. You can search The Myles B Show on Apple to listen to the podcast. Drop us a follow and a like or a subscription while you're at there. And you can find all this stuff at themylesbshow.com. I appreciate everybody's support. Don't forget, tonight we got Alex B and myself doing the Colts wrap-up Myles B Show takeover of the Alex B podcast. We're going to be doing video. We're going to be doing audio. Check it out. Can't wait to see you guys tonight. Go Colts.